Hello and welcome to the old Fliers. Recently we uploaded a presentation on Colditz World War II prisoner of war camps. In his presentation, Miles Goldingham mentioned Roald Dahl. Roald is an interesting chap. He is an acclaimed author but was also a World War II fighter pilot. Roald has been called one of the greatest storytellers for children of the 20th century, the author of Matilda, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Fantastic Mr. Fox and BFG. He also wrote for TV and film, writing credits including the James Bond film You Only Live Twice and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, adaptations of novels by Ian Fleming. But seeing as we are an aviation focused channel, we wanted to know about his flying. Roald was born in Wales in 1916 to Norwegian immigrant parents. In July 1934, Dahl joined the Shell Petroleum Company and was assigned first to Mombasa in Kenya, then to Dar es Salaam in the British colony of Tanganyika, now part of Tanzania. Dahl explains in his autobiography, Going Solo, that only 3 young men ran the Shell Company in the territory and they lived a life of luxury. In August 1939, as the Second World War loomed, Dahl was commissioned as a lieutenant into the King's African Rifles, commanding a platoon of Afghan men. In November 1939, Dahl joined the Royal Air Force as an aircraftsman. After a 970-kilometre car journey from Dar es Salaam to Nairobi, he was accepted for flight training with 16 other men, of whom only 3 survived the war. Dahl soloed in 7 hours in a de Havilland Tiger Moth. By comparison, I soloed in 13 hours. He continued to advance flying training at RAF Habanya, west of Baghdad. Following 6 months training on Hawker Harts, Dahl was commissioned as a pilot officer on the 24th of August 1940 and was judged ready to join a squadron and face the enemy. He was assigned to number 80 Squadron RAF, flying obsolete Gloucester Gladiators, the last biplane fighter aircraft used by the RAF. He didn't receive any specialised training in aerial combat or in flying the Gladiators. On the 19th of September 1940, Dahl and another pilot were ordered to fly their Gladiators by stages from Abu Saria near Ismailia in Egypt to 80 Squadron's Ford airstrip 48 kilometres south of Mersa Matruh. On the final leg, they could not find the airstrip and, running low on fuel and with night approaching, they made forced landings in the desert. Dahl's undercarriage hit a boulder. His skull was fractured and his nose was smashed. He was temporarily blinded. He managed to drag himself away from the blazing wreckage and lost consciousness. His colleague, Douglas MacDonald, had landed safely and was able to comfort Dahl until they were rescued. Dahl came to believe that the head injury he sustained in the crash resulted in his creative genius. He wrote about the crash in his first published work. He remained blind for 6 weeks due to massive swelling of the brain. An RAF inquiry into the crash revealed the location to which they had been told to fly was completely wrong. It was in no man's land between the Allied and Italian forces. In February 1941, Dahl was discharged from the hospital, rejoining his squadron at Eusenia near Athens, now equipped with Hawker Hurricanes. The RAF had only 18 combat aircraft in Greece, 14 Hurricanes and 4 Bristol Blenheim light bombers. Dahl flew in his first aerial combat on the 15th of April 1941, attacking 6 Junkers Ju-88s that were bombing ships, and he shot 1 down. On the 16th of April, in another air battle, he shot down another. On the 20th, Dahl took part in the Battle of Athens. Dahl described it as an endless blur of enemy fighters whizzing towards me from every side. In May, his squadron was reassembled in a Haifa to take part in Operation Exporter in Egypt. Dahl flew sorties every day for a period of 4 weeks, shooting down a Vichy French Air Force Potez 63 on the 8th of June and another Ju-88 on the 15th. In a memoir, Dahl recounts in detail an attack by him and his fellow Hurricane pilots on the Vichy-held Ryak airfield. He says that as he and his fellow Hurricane pilots swept in, quote, low over the field at midday, we saw, to our astonishment, a bunch of girls in brightly coloured cotton dresses standing out by the planes with glasses in their hands, having drinks with the French pilots. And I remember seeing bottles of wine standing on the wing of one of the planes as we went swooshing over. It was a Sunday morning and the Frenchmen were evidently entertaining their girlfriends and showing off the aircraft to them, which was a very French thing to do in the middle of a war at a frontline aerodrome. Every one of us held our fire on that first pass over the flying field, and it was wonderfully comical to see all the girls dropping their wine glasses and galloping in their high heels for the door of the nearest building. We went round again, but this time we were no longer a surprise and they were ready for us with their ground defences, and I am afraid that our chivalry resulted in damage to several of our Hurricanes, including my own. But we destroyed 5 of their planes on the ground. End of quote. He described the Vichy French forces as disgusting. He began to get severe headaches that caused him to black out and was invalided home to Britain. In late March 1942, while in London, he met the Under-Secretary of State for Air, Major Harold Balfour, who was impressed by Dahl's war record and conversational abilities. Balfour appointed him as Assistant Air Attaché at the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. Dahl took passage on the MS Battery from Glasgow, arriving in Halifax, Canada. Coming from war-starved Britain in what was a wartime period of rationing in the United Kingdom, Dahl was amazed by the wealth of food and amenities to be had in North America. Arriving in Washington a week later, Dahl realised that he had taken on a most ungodly, unimportant job. He explained, "I'd just come from the war. People were getting killed. I had been flying around seeing horrible things. Now I found myself in the middle of a pre-war cocktail party in America." He was unimpressed by the British ambassador, Lord Halifax. Lord Halifax was an advocate for appeasing Hitler. The United States had isolationist views, that is, until Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor the previous December. Here, Dahl met the noted British novelist C.S.Forester. The Saturday Evening Post asked Forester to write a story based on Dahl's flying experiences. Forester asked Dahl to write down some RAF anecdotes so that he could shape them into a story. Forester titled the article "A Piece of Cake," but the magazine changed it to "Shot Down Over Libya" to make it sound more dramatic. Dahl had not been shot down, as you recall. Later, Dahl worked with such other well-known British officers as Ian Fleming of James Bond fame and David Ogilvy, promoting Britain's interests and message in the US and combating the America First movement. This work introduced Dahl to espionage and the activities of the Canadian spymaster William Stevenson, known by the codename Intrepid. During the war, Dahl supplied intelligence from Washington to Prime Minister Winston Churchill. As Dahl later said, "My job was to try to help Winston to get on with FDR and tell Winston what was on the old boy's mind." Dahl also supplied intelligence to Stevenson and his organisation, known as British Security Coordination, which was part of M16. At the end of World War II, owing to the severity of his injuries from the 1940 accident, he was pronounced unfit for further service and was invalided out of the RAF in August 1946 as a squadron leader. His record of 5 aerial victories qualified him as a flying ace. In 1953, Dahl married American actress Patricia Neal. In November 1962, their daughter Olivia died of measles encephalitis, aged 7. Dahl subsequently became a proponent of immunisation, writing, "Measles, a dangerous illness." In 1988, in response to measles cases in the UK, he dedicated his 1982 book, The BFG, to his daughter. Dahl has published many books based on his flying and wartime adventures. His first children's book was The Gremlins, published in 1943, about mischievous little creatures that were part of Royal Air Force folklore. The RAF pilots blamed the Gremlins for all of the problems with their aircraft. The protagonist, Gus, an RAF pilot like Dahl, joins forces with the Gremlins against the common enemy, Hitler and the Nazis. Dahl went on to write some of the best-loved children's stories of the 20th century, as well as more than 60 adult short stories, some appearing as Alfred Hitchcock movies. Roald Dahl died on the 23rd of November 1990 at the age of 74 and was buried in the cemetery at the Church of St Peter and St Paul, Great Missenden, Buckinghamshire, England. He was buried with his snooker cues, some very good burgundy, chocolates, HB pencils and a power saw. What a way to be sent off. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't done already to encourage new content. Donations always welcome.